president was being candid when he described these American cities as the enemy within. He views them as the enemy within. That is unprecedented in its dangerousness. That is, that an American president views cities that didn't support him or states that didn't support him as the enemy, that he describes the opposite party as beholden to Satan. That's where this president is coming from. And the idea that we will militarize these cities, that we will impose the U.S. military on the mayors and governors of those cities and states should be unthinkable. And for Speaker Johnson to claim, as he did when you interviewed him, that somehow these National Guard troops that over the governor's opposition are being forced to engage in policing or immigration enforcement are very happy to be doing it. I can tell you in California, the National Guard were not happy to be doing it. It is, I think, greatly impacting morale of the National Guard. And it is also disrupting the trust that Americans have for their National Guard. We have a particular bond in California where they come to our rescue during fires and floods and other natural disasters. That is being eroded, as I think is also military readiness when we're diverting military resources for these improper purposes.
Well, this fight is about opening the government, protecting healthcare, and preventing the massive hikes in healthcare costs if we do not address the Affordable Care Act tax credit. And if we don't, costs can go up to $7,000 to $18,000 for working people and families across the nation, including right here in the district.
How long do you anticipate the shutdown will last, and how will this directly impact your constituents?
Well, we need to open the government right now, but unfortunately, Republican Speaker Johnson canceled work next week. And so he first needs to get us back to Washington, D.C., and he needs to speak with the Democrats so we can come up with a good bipartisan solution.
What are some of the negotiation tactics that Democrats are looking at to negotiate with Republicans?
Well, at this point, we're just asking them to show up to work and speak with us, because this is not about a line item in the budget on a spreadsheet. This is about real-life experiences. Federal workers as early as next week will not get their paycheck. And I've already spoken with labor leaders. I've spoken with some of the local organizations. They're going to have difficulties buying groceries, paying for gas, paying their rent, utilities. So I'm working to connect the federal workers with the organizations so they can come up with agreements and support and resources to meet their basic needs. This is not fun for them. That's why we need to take this seriously, and Republicans need to call us, Speaker Johnson needs to call us back to work. They need to show up to work, and we need to start talking about ending this government shutdown, because it's all about healthcare costs. It's all about protecting healthcare. They refused to put the Affordable Care Act tax credits in the big ugly law, which already cuts Medicaid by about $1 trillion. It's going to leave 15 million people uninsured. It reduces funding for hospitals by $600 billion, which is going to cause hospitals to close, premiums to go up with limited resources.
Hey Iowa, it's Congressman Zach Nunn. This week, it's a little bit different. As you've already noticed, the federal government has shut down. And I want to be able to have a conversation with all of Iowa about what that means and how we're working to help. First and foremost, let me say, in the House of Representatives, we've done our job. We've passed a continuing resolution that keeps the government open. We've sent it over to the Senate, and the Senate's brought it up not once, not twice, but 3 times, and will continue to do it. The reality is in the Senate you need 60 votes, and that means both parties have to work together. And while Republicans and Democrats have come together in the Senate, there is a holdout of individuals who want to put $1.5 trillion in additional spending into a clean CR. While we've moved forward something that helps keep our government open, something that I've always done, whether it's a Republican or Democrat in government, we've got to be able to move together to end this shutdown and help folks who need it most. That's why I'm so committed to making sure that our office stays open. And so a particular salute to our offices in Creston, in Ottumwa, and right here in Des Moines. Even though these hardworking individuals aren't getting paid, they're still here because it's important that you get the assistance you need, even in this time of a government shutdown. Let's talk about what that means in real terms. That means 15,000 Iowa National Guards members, both here, including nearly 2,000 deployed overseas, are still serving on the front line, helping their families on the home front, but aren't getting paid. It means that 330,000 Iowans who need key benefits aren't going to be able to receive those if this government doesn't open back up. It means 3 million Iowans who may be flying or traveling in the days ahead are going to have long wait times, possibly even delays, because TSA and our FAA team aren't available to be paid full time. We also know this. This was an entirely avoidable shutdown. It was a group of 47 individuals in D.C. who put their primary politics ahead of our nation's good interests. And so while I'm committed to making sure that we move forward a continuing resolution and an appropriations budget that continues, as we've already done in D.C., I'm asking to say, what can we best do to help you? So come, let our offices know. We're going to continue to fight for this Iowa. We're going to continue to serve you, and we will always put you first. My commitment is, let's pass a budget. Let's open our government, and let's take care of you, the taxpayer. Thanks for all you do, Iowa. I'll see you around here, and we'll be in D.C. fighting to open our government.
I can tell you, I receive so many death threats as a member of Congress right now, as a survivor of rape, simply because I don't want men, as a rape survivor, I don't want men in the women's bathroom. I don't want men in the shower next to me. And I get death threats because of that position. And I think we have to have a very frank conversation about what's really happening and take responsibility. This was a political assassination.
Earlier this week, you said President Trump's healthcare crisis will worsen for New Mexicans if Republicans allow ACA premium tax credits to expire by the end of the year. What are your primary concerns for your state and for all Americans as this shutdown continues to extend, it appears, at least into next week?
If we don't fix this, it will play a role in pushing our nation into a recession. It is of that magnitude because it will destabilize so many working families. We should avoid that. And let's be clear. The Republicans just spent $3.4 trillion on tax cuts for high-end earners. We're talking about $35 billion a year for working people. We can afford this. The President of the United States is suggesting we give $20 billion to Argentina so he can prop up a right-wing ally in South America who is actually undercutting our farmers right now. We can afford to fix this, and our priority should be working Americans.
So what he's done is ignored a court order, violating the spirit of the law. And if he continues to do it, he's going to do it again and again and again.
So your response to the president sending troops from your state to handle an alleged crime problem in another?
Well, first, this is something that we knew Trump would do. He would continuously abuse his power and the power to deploy and federalize National Guard all over the country. And that's what he's done in California and across the nation. The move to send California National Guard is a violation of the spirit of the judgment that was ruled by one of his own appointees, that the conditions to deploy the National Guard or the military to Portland do not exist. There's no insurrection going on. So what he's done is ignored a court order, violating the spirit of the law. And if he continues to do it, he's going to do it again and again and again.
Johnson doesn't want to discuss the real issue, the healthcare crisis facing the American people. So he puts up all these fake lies to try and divert attention. It's his standard operation. He just is concerned with the politics. Every independent agency that looks at this says Johnson's claim is false. And just as you said, Margaret, zero federal dollars can go to undocumented immigrants through Medicare, through Medicaid, through ACA. And so we ought to be talking about the real issue here, which is that we have a healthcare crisis in America caused by the Republicans. They've barreled us towards a shutdown because they don't want to deal with that crisis, plain and simple. 2 days ago, starting October 1st, millions of Americans are getting notices that their healthcare premiums are dramatically increasing. If you're an old couple and you make $80,000, you know how much your premiums will go up if we don't extend it? It'll go up something like $25,000. The average American will pay $900 more. How do Americans who are struggling, sitting at the table Friday night figuring out how to pay the bills, how the heck can they get such an increase? Democrats are simple. We want to extend it, and so they won't have to pay that increase. And Johnson does not want to do it. He's just not serious about it, as exemplified by him sending the House home for 2 weeks. You need to be here to negotiate.
Seeing this kind of mob mentality is like, listen, I have the position and I'm going to do whatever I want to. And frankly, the Supreme Court gave him license when, for the first time in the history of this country, we had a president that was concerned about immunity because he knows that he does not like to follow the law. He doesn't care about the law, yet he's claiming that he's sending in these troops illegally so that he can bring about law and order. Now, how crazy is that? And when we talk about Chicago, in fact, the event I just left, I talked about Chicago because I don't think that it's really been uttered enough. That one of the things that I say all the time when I'm doing some of my talks is that I need you to survive. It's a gospel song. But the point of it that I try to make for a lot of people is that there are people that wanted to say, well, I'm not an immigrant, so that's not my problem, and they taking our jobs anyway, according to Trump, right? And so now we're seeing that, like, no, it is your problem. It is all of our problems because immigrants contribute to this country. Stop falling for the okie doke. Stop believing the lies that they are putting out there and the terrible racist tropes that they are constantly using to rile people up. It is time to recognize that while you thought the enemy was the immigrant, or you thought the enemy was the trans person, or you thought that the enemy was the black folk, or you thought the enemy were the women, when the reality is that the only person that is harming you right now, if you are struggling to make sure that you can pay your bills, if you're struggling to feed your family, if you are struggling to find a job, if you are struggling to keep your business open, or if you are a farmer, while we currently have record level bankruptcies by farmers, it is not any of those people on the list. It is the old white Nepo baby that is sitting in the White House that is causing all the destruction, pain, and problems that you are enduring.
Before you go, Senator, we're 5 days into this government shutdown. Where do things stand in the Senate, and can we expect to see any progress in the chamber this week while the House is adjourned until mid-month?
Well, I think you just answered your own question, Reverend Al, and you have a lot of insight based on your own really exhaustive experience with Washington, D.C., but hard to see any progress at all if the House of Representatives is out of town, which the Speaker has commanded it to be until October 14th. And they're not only out of town, they're out of touch. The talk shows today had not only Speaker Johnson, but also Leader Thune, both of them essentially adhering to the Trump line that Democrats have to totally surrender, in effect, and adopt their clean CR, clean continuing resolution. It's really a dirty CR, and we are determined to stand strong, to be firm, because what's at stake here is literally life and death. American healthcare, people's ability to buy insulin or hypertension pills or other life-saving medicine, which they will be unable to do because they won't be able to buy health insurance on the open enrollment exchanges that begin literally within weeks. The clock is ticking. And a family of four, for example, just to take one that makes $130,000 a year with two earners, and we'll see a increase of health insurance per month costs from $550 to $2,000.
Wow.
Somebody who's 55 years old and makes $85,000 a year will have to pay $25,000 in insurance costs. That's why insurance commissioners, they're the ones who are responsible for keeping healthcare insurance affordable. Unanimously across the country, red states, blue states are saying we need these subsidies to be extended by November 1st or even earlier. In Idaho, the open enrollment period begins on October 15th. So
how long do you think this is going to last? How long do you think this shutdown will last, given the facts that you just laid out?
It would end tomorrow if Republicans were willing to sit down at the table and negotiate with us serious. If they were to get serious, we could end it tomorrow, but we need to keep that health care subsidies beyond the deadline that exists right now and restore also, in my view, Medicaid for the millions of Americans who will be without. And just one last point, Reverend Al, you know, the people who are affected here, 3/4 of them, those millions of people who will be without health insurance, 3/4 of them live in red states that Donald Trump took in the last election. So they are shooting themselves in the foot, proverbially, and they are damaging their own constituents.
And actually, before the shutdown, I led several other members of Congress in a letter to House leadership explaining some of the areas that we would want to negotiate with Republicans on. It was reversing some of the worst Medicaid cuts that are going to raise the cost of long-term and elder care for the middle class. It was a vote in Congress on the tariffs, not asking for, my side to win the vote. We just want to literally have a vote so the American people can see where we stand on this inflationary agenda. And some basic measures to stem the corruption of this administration. All of those three issues have supermajority support from Americans. None of them are outside the bounds of discourse, and we should absolutely press the president to make good on them.
I know that we are all thinking of the community of Grand Blanc and another senseless act of mass violence, targeted violence, this time against a church. Let me just take a minute to recognize how incredible the law enforcement and first responders and hospital staff were in responding to this complex attack. We should all take lessons from them. They arrived often from places, communities outside of Grand Blanc Township, worked together as a team, put their heads down and focused on the mission. We appreciate the incredible lengths that they went to, and we know that they will be impacted by this for the rest of their life. I also want to say we can learn from our law enforcement the importance of being nonpartisan about a tragedy like this. One of the things that was really important to me in the days after this horrific incident was getting people together, Democrats, Republicans, at the local, state, and federal level, sitting around a table, working together as a team on how we're going to get support into this community that's so rocked by violence. I made the point of sitting with a Republican House member from Michigan and did a video together to express how important it is to rise above the political conspiracy theories, all the social media stuff that's happening online, and focus instead on the mission of helping this community revive and come through their shock. I hope that's a lesson that we can take for everyone, not just in this incident, but because of the last 6 weeks that we've had in our country and how that threatened to tear us apart.
Now, we have made clear that in terms of what's immediately in front of us, there, of course, is an urgent need to address the Affordable Care Act and the Republicans' refusal to extend these tax credits. What we're talking about here is a dramatic impact on real, everyday Americans. A married couple of two, for instance, that makes $88,000 a year, a modest amount, currently pays about $8,000 a year in their health care insurance. That's already too much. But if these Affordable Care Act tax credits expire, that same couple will be forced to pay $24,000 a year. It's unaffordable. It will bankrupt them. It will leave them without coverage. And those are the people who we're fighting for.
I just spoke to some individuals whose loved ones were part of the flotilla trying to get food and humanitarian supplies to starving people in Gaza. And they called me because their loved ones have been detained and they want to know what their situation is. And they've gotten no real response from the U.S. Embassy or the U.S. government. Now, the U.S. government says its number one obligation is to protect American citizens abroad. So regardless of what they thought about the flotilla, they have a duty to look out for the safety and security of these American citizens, who, by the way, include a number of American veterans, people who served our country in uniform. I sent a letter to Secretary Rubio some time ago demanding that he uphold his responsibilities to look out for the well-being of these American citizens. Whether he agrees or disagrees with their view is not relevant. What's relevant is he has an obligation to protect American citizens, regardless of their viewpoints. And in this case, you had American citizens who were trying to help get food to starving people in Gaza. We, the U.S. government, must ensure and demand that all of these Americans are brought home safely and brought home now.
I'm joined in studio by Democratic Senator Cory Booker on day 5 of the shutdown. Let's talk about what John Thune said and whether there have been any negotiations or conversations this weekend.
Well, that's the frustrating thing. John Thune is absolutely right. 13 different occasions when we were in charge, we passed budgets because we did it in a bipartisan way. It wasn't our way or the highway. We came together in what they call a four-corner agreement and negotiated a way forward. They're not negotiating. Remember, the Speaker of the House has kept the House out for the last 2 weeks. They're not sitting down. And when he asks what's different, what is different is we are, for the first time in America ever, we're on a moment where, because of Donald Trump's attacks on Medicaid and the Affordable Care Act, on the verge of tens of millions of Americans losing their health care, and most of Americans experiencing a significant rise in their health care costs. This is a different moment than we've ever seen before, and it's really a moment of health care crisis.
But what's not different is this is a short-term 7-week extension. 7 weeks, which the Republicans say you could negotiate in, and those affordable care subsidies do not run out till the end of the year.
Well, two things. One is it's another CR. Remember, many of us voted against this 6 months ago when they said the same thing. Oh, it's just a temporary push. We've had 6 months plus this time for them to bring us together. The president hasn't done it. The president himself who said it's the president's responsibility to bring the parties together and get a budget passed. They control the House, the Senate, and the White House, and the president hasn't done that. Moreover,
but they need Democrats, obviously.
They need Democrats, which means come to the table. What I'm seeing in my state is hundreds of thousands of people losing their health care, millions of people in New Jersey seeing their health care premiums double or around that.
Aren't you a little worried that they're going to blame you for that because they need Democrats? Yes, those could affect your constituents.
I don't care about the blame game. I care about Americans losing their health insurance, rates of death going up, hospitals being crushed, medical services ending in places in rural America. This is a tsunami of Donald Trump's creation. The pain, the hurt, the fear that's going to rise amongst millions of Americans who are going to lose health insurance. Dear God, just come to the table and do something to help Americans. This is truly, for many Americans, existential. We're getting calls from Republicans in my state who are part of hospital boards saying what is coming is crazy, and it's not coming in January. People will start literally getting their notes about their healthcare premiums going up in a matter of days. We need to deal with the crisis of the American people, a crisis of Donald Trump's.
And I want to play something from your colleague from New Hampshire, Senator Jeanne Shaheen. She had to say about the negotiations.
Yes.
Let's listen.
In order to find that middle ground, it takes people on both sides of the aisle. And I think the good news is that people are still talking. I think the bad news is that we're not seeing the leadership on both sides really willing to sit down and negotiate.
Your reaction to that?
I've never seen a president who takes such glee in a shutdown. He's saying with joy, oh, our project...
Let's talk about what she just said and about leadership and your own party leadership. Do you have any disappointment in your party leadership?
You've seen Chuck Schumer go to the podium, negotiate with us, almost begging the president to bring the parties together like he said. Donald Trump literally has said it's the president's responsibility to bring the parties together and negotiate a way through. This is a failure in leadership. And for Americans of all parties who are about to lose their health care, are about to watch their costs go up, for the hospitals that are in danger of closing, for the clinics that are already closing, this is a time where Americans are saying, cut it out.
So you're fine with your leadership, with everything the Democrats have been doing?
I am proud of those people who are standing up right now and saying, we're not doing business as usual in Washington with this many millions of Americans are literally going to be hurt because when they're sick, they won't be able to afford to go to a doctor. When they go to the emergency room, the lines will be 2 times as long. We are in a crisis. We need a president to stand up and bring us together to help to solve the problems of the American people.
Speaking of bringing together, are you confident that your entire caucus, save those Democrats who've already sided, 3 Democrats who've already sided with Republicans, will stay firm?
I can't speak for other Democrats. I can tell you right now, I represent New Jersey, up and down my state. People are afraid. People are hurting. People who run hospitals, who run clinics are saying there is a tsunami coming to this state and to this nation. We have to stand up and fight right now. This is a time where we all should be coming together to do something to alleviate the rising costs, the loss of health care, and the pain that Americans are about to get hit with.
Okay, thanks very much for joining us this morning, Senator.
Thank you for having me.
Good to see you.
Is he trolling the Democrats? Yes. I mean, yes, because that's what President Trump does, and people are having fun with this. People are having fun with this.
The president's joking, and we're having a good time. And we're having a good time.
The soybean market's almost like the corn market as well, but soybean market is terrible.
Brennan Gilkinson is a soybean farmer in Fayette and Clark counties since graduating from school in 2000. Gilkinson says other than the 2012 drought, now is the worst point he's been in the business.
The prices are driven by supply and demand. We'd like to say it's all tariffs. Tariffs has a lot to do with it.
Soybean prices are dictated by supply and demand. Because of the 20% retaliatory tariff imposed by China, Gilkinson says China has turned to Brazil and Argentina for their soybeans. He emphasizes this is bad for business because the largest importer of U.S. soybeans has yet to buy any. University of Kentucky Assistant Extension Professor Grant Gardner believes this may be part of China's negotiating strategy.
If you look at the base of the American farmer, they're loud. So the ag lobby is really loud. It's going to be in the president's ear constantly. And so one easy way to kind of push back on the United States is to make sure that they're not helping us out by buying beans.
Gilkinson says he isn't sure what he's going to do next, but adds he's not giving up.
You always fear the worst, but hope for the best. So we'll keep on digging.
But they're not even seriously talking to us. And I think what they're shocked by, big surprise, the American people who are already hit by these tariffs, grocery prices up, electricity prices up, and now their health care premium notices are coming in. Yeah. They're seeing these huge increases. And a recent Kaiser family poll just yesterday showed that 57% of the Republicans, because so many of this, the Affordable Care Act is used in rural areas, are saying, no, we need these tax credits.
The Republicans in Congress created a healthcare crisis, pushing up Nevada's monthly healthcare premiums by hundreds of dollars a month in just a few weeks. And congressional Republicans need to come to the negotiating table to fix this mess.